Guys, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. If you're tuning in, thank you guys. If you are taking the time today to watch us, I really appreciate you guys. If you guys don't mind, also hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Today, I'm really excited for this episode, honestly. I'm glad that our guest was able to make time for us, and I think we can just dive right into it. Evelyn, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
How are you feeling about all this?
I'm nervous, but I'm excited. I'm really excited for it. Yeah.
Okay. And so tell me, what is it that you do? Because for the reason that I contacted you.
Yeah. So currently I'm a CNA, so certified nurse assistant.
Okay.
I've been that for 3 years now.
Okay.
And I'm currently in nursing school to receive my BSN, and I graduate this December for it. And yeah, so then I'll be a BSN RN by the end of January. I have to take a test, my state exam, which will be my license to practice as a nurse, and then I'll be a full nurse by, si Dios quiere, by February, honestly.
How does that feel that now you're getting close to your goal?
It hasn't felt real until now. My instructors are like, you have to start applying for your job. This January, the end of this month, July, they open up. So now it's I have to choose what specialty I'm going for, what hospital I'm working for, and where at. And that'll be my nursing job. So now that I'm having to work on my resume, practice interview questions, it's getting more and more real. And so I'm just kind of look-key, I didn't expect it.
Do you have it in your mind kind of what you want to go into based off your experience as a CNA?
It's funny because I kept saying ICU, ICU, ICU. On my page, it's future ICU nurse. Okay. That's what is a specialty. It's called an intensive care unit nurse. Mm-hmm. And that was I thought I was going to go into ICU nurse, I think.
What roles did people in the ICU take?
So you're it's a specialty. So you could do, for example, there's ED, emergency department. That's one. But ICU is specifically where the patients are intubated, they're on a trach, they're pretty much about to die, or really bad, and you're just giving them medication to either help them, or they can code, which pretty much means their heart stopped, and you have to save them and do CPR and redo that. So that's the ICU.
Is it intense?
Sense. Yeah, very. It's in the name, intensive ICU. No, just kidding. But yeah, and then there's other specialties. You could do peds, you can do OB, labor and delivery, and there's so many things you can do. But you have to figure it out, because that's what I'm supposed to be applying by the end of this month.
How have you figured it out?
I think even before, in high school, I'm okay, this is what I'm going to do. I had my 10-year plan. I was I'm going to get my CNA license by this age. I'm going to work here for this amount of time. Make sure I find this job in the ICU as a CNA, which is as an assistant, so that I kind of have my foot in the door. Mm-hmm. And then when it's time to apply, I'm hey, I've been working here. I'm going to graduate my BSN. You think you can pull my name out of the... when I apply the application and accept me, talk to the manager and stuff. So I've been planning every single thing, from the hospital, from the unit, from everything, so that I know that I know 100% sure I'm getting what I want to get, if that makes sense.
So out of high school, right off the bat, you already knew what you wanted to be?
Even before high school.
Really?
I had they always call me crazy because they're why do you have this? No, but I've had it's on my computer. I did my 10-year plan. I'm okay, you're going to apply for this scholarship. You're going to go to this college. You're going to, after college, before that, I was you have to, I even looked at the nursing applications for school ahead of time, if that makes sense. So I saw how many volunteer hours I needed, what they were looking for, what certifications would put me on top to apply. And I did all of that before I applied to nursing school, if that makes sense. So that I could get in. And then I'm okay, then after that, this is where you're going to work for this amount of time. Then you're going to get this. to like what I want to do eventually, which is like the DNP.
How much did that 10-year plan help you achieve your goals? Normally, we do a lot of wishful thinking, and we say like, hey, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be an engineer, but we don't map out the plan, I think, like we should.
Yeah.
How much did it help you actually seeing that every day? Did you revise it?
It helped me a lot, like a lot. Like I've been following it so strictly, and I'm always like so thankful to God because I've been hitting it off. Like I've been like, okay, cross this off. Okay, I did this, and it helps me because I see like other people kind of like, I mean, me personally, my personality, I'm not okay with not knowing what I want to do. I'm not okay with that. Oh, I'll just figure it out, or it'll just maybe fall in my lap. Like I don't believe in that. I feel like I need to work, like I know I need to work on it, and if this is what I want and I know it's hard, then I need to like be on top of my game to make sure I get it. So I mean, even before high school, I was just like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do, and I just like sat down and just like started figuring it out. Or at night I would research like colleges that would benefit me and like careers. And even then, before after I get my nursing like degree, I'm like, okay, what do I need to get to like go into graduate school, because I'm planning graduate school too.
Graduate school is what?
To get my DNP, so my doctor and nurse practitioner license. So that's later down in the future, like down the road.
How much is that different from a BSN RN, which is what you are going to be this coming January, to where a DNP?
So BSN is Bachelor of Science in Nursing. So you're an RN, registered nurse. So you're just a nurse. You're working in a hospital, clinic, anywhere, and you have your patient and you follow orders from the doctor. And that's pretty much it. But like a DNP, it's a doctor and nurse practitioner. So have more years of experience. You have more knowledge into like the medicine, so pharmacology, and también pathophysiology. So like the diseases, you go even deeper into that than what they teach you in nursing school. So when you're a DNP, you have the title of like a doctor, but and you have your own patients, and you can now set some orders instead of like the nurse getting it from you. Like you can give now orders to nurses, if that makes sense, about that patient. That's your patient too. Because a lot of people are assigned the same patient, but you're more arriba, if that makes sense.
So you said you go more into pharmacology, right? So that means that you would be able to prescribe?
Yes.
Oh.
So I'd be able to prescribe medication, and I'll have more in depth of medication. And I could like, sometimes you have to wait for the doctor and be like, hey, like I need to like text the doctor and see what I need to do if my patient is like doing something weird that we know what we can do. But as a nurse, you can't just be like, okay, let me give it to them, even though you know this is what they need. You just don't have that authority. As a DNP, I have way more authority than like a nurse, so I'll be able to like probably be like, yeah, you can do it, without like having to wait for the doctor.
So you're like in between a nurse and a doctor, like right between.
Yeah, like I won't have I'm not an MD, a medical doctor, so they're always going to be on top of everybody, right?
Okay.
But I'll have more knowledge than just like a BSN nurse, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And it's more responsibility. So it just really depends on like who you are. And it's nothing wrong if you're like a BSN or an RN, like that, if you love that, But my main goal for it, it's like to open up my own clinic with my DNP.
Okay.
Yeah.
And opening up your own clinic, can you do it in any state as a DNP, or is it different based off every state?
With that, I know specifically for North Carolina, I can be a DNP, but I have to co-sign with an MD. So I'll have to have a partner with me, and we'll both run it. I can't do it by myself because I'm not an MD, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And other states, you can be a DNP and open up your own clinic. It just really depends. But specifically for this state, I know I would have to co-sign with the MD.
But what type of clinic would it be? Just like general healthcare? Would we be doing aesthetics?
It would be like a community clinic, kind of. Like it could be like all ages. So I would do like greater than 3 to like old people. And the main like idea and where I came up with it was more like growing up, my parents, we would go to, like clinics, like Latino clinics, and like where they wouldn't sometimes accept insurance, and like you could pay out of pocket and they wouldn't be like crazy pricey like as the hospitals. And everyone there would just like be so nice, and it'd be more like intimate, I think, and the care would be more like really specific than like going to like big well-known hospitals where you're just like a patient and you just go in and they're like, okay, and the doctor barely kind of like talks to you. And I feel like just growing up like that and just seeing how it just helped a lot of the community that couldn't afford it or didn't have insurance. I think that was kind of like what stuck to me. And I was like, okay, I want to be able to give back. I want to be able to do something for my community too, and any minority that can't afford it like that. So that was my goal for my clinic.
So, I mean, I feel like as Hispanics, we go a lot through that, like a lot of hardships, especially because we can't get health insurance. So we're always confronted with the fact that we have to pay everything out of pocket. And it's so weird to me that certain hospitals don't allow you to pay out of pocket.
Yeah.
They're like, where's your insurance?
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, it becomes really hard to get the proper health care. So props for you for that, because I feel like the more the merrier, because it's like we always aim to where they treat us the best. And I feel like there can never be enough, honestly.
It always stuck to me, because part of it too was when I would go to like hospitals or like big named clinics. I mean, they wouldn't even have translators or interpreters. And I would go with my mom and we'd be waiting. And like legally as a kid, you can't you can't interpret for your parents. So it's like you have to wait for hours for like someone to come in to speak Spanish.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, at least growing up, it would be like that. Yeah. And the doctors wouldn't know Spanish, or they know like really small sentences, or even the nurses there, like no one knew Spanish enough to like talk to my mom or even to me. So like growing up, I was just like, okay, I know for sure healthcare is like my direction. Like I want to represent my people, so and be there for people that like, speak Spanish, and I can like make them feel like, oh, like someone can like actually listen to me and care to me and like speak to me, because there's like a big language barrier in the healthcare community. So
as an RN, have you faced any situation that can kind of like touched your heart to where you're like, wow, like I'm doing the right thing?
Yeah, there's been moments where, because as a CNA, I currently work at the hospital and the ICU. So there you see a lot of people dying. Like it's normal for you to be like, okay, this patient died, let's clean them up, let's bag them up, next patient. So that kind of hit me like, okay, like, whoa. And there was this one Hispanic patient. He was a dad, and he was really young, like maybe in his 40s, 50s, and he was dying. And like his family, they were all like praying and diciendo Ave Maria and everything like that, and they're holding hands. And I'm going in there to like help clean him up. And another CNA, she was just like American, doesn't know Spanish, and was just talking in English. And I felt like I was more respectful, and like, because I understand the culture, I know what they're doing, I know like I can understand what they're saying. So for my part, I was like, okay, let me be respectful, let me kind of like sit back and just, I mean, I didn't have to pray if I didn't want to, but I was just there. And like the other CNA, I don't think culturally she didn't understand it. She was just kind of like in there, getting in their way, not really being really respectful. Then when we walked out, I was like almost like about to cry, because it was just like really sad to me seeing that. And he was brain dead. So the family was kind of praying that they were going to wake up and that they were going to like do this. And I told her that. And she was just like, oh, that kind of always gets me annoyed. And I was like, what do you mean? And then she was just like, the whole like prayer thing. Like, I don't get them. I don't get what they're saying. And like kind of like bashing them in a way and making them feel like, ew, why are they doing this? Like, doesn't, and I kind of was just kind of like, why? Like, to me, it just shook me so much, because I was just kind of like, wow, you're not compassionate at all. Like, how do you not? Like, even if you don't understand what they're saying, like, you see that they're praying, you see that they're losing a family member, and that, everyone still has hope. So, like, you maintain your respects. But I don't think she understood that. So that kind of made me be like, wow, like, I'm this is kind of why I'm doing it. It kind of like pushes me more to be like, I need to represent my people and be here for them so that like, you know, they don't feel weird to do what they want to do, you know, or like different, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and for example, as being a Hispanic, culturally, religion is one of those things to where like we have so many santos that I don't even know the names of it. and we continue to pray for them, but I feel like whenever those situations pop up, I'm like, it's just ignorance that people don't know, and I don't say it in a bad way. It's like they just culturally weren't raised like that, so therefore. But I feel like there still should be a mutual respect to where like, hey, this is what they believe in, so therefore I'm gonna allow them to play it out the way that they want it to play out. Because I mean, just imagine seeing your family member there brain dead.
Exactly.
And just I feel like even the hope allows you
to like continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, you know, I get it, but I don't know.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's so important too. Like when I came across your page, I was like, well, I'm glad you're really doing this like for the right reasons. And I feel like people like that evolve because you're not doing it necessarily, I guess, for like selfish reasons. And I'm a big person on God too. It's like I feel like whenever God sees that, it's like you have more abundance or more things are open to you, just like you had your 10-year plan and you're like, wow, I'm like scratching all these off, but it's also like a higher power giving you,
definitely
paving you the way to where like sometimes it's even luck. Like
it's not, I don't think believe in luck. It's more like hard work, and then también like with God, like I'm like very faithful in my religion too, so I'm just kind of like, it's not just me too, it's like higher power too. But yeah,
what are kind of the hardships that you have faced as like going to be a CNA, so we don't adelantarnos?
So as a CNA, you can do that, I think, as soon as you turn 16, 18, depending. Like you can be like 17 doing it.
Okay.
Because you're an assistant, so essentially what you do is you help bathe a patient. You can feed them, you can change them, help mobilize them, so if they can't like move or get up, you're helping them. So you don't, it's not like a license, it's like a type of certification that you can do. And a lot of people do that because you want to be a nurse or you want to be in the healthcare field. So I me metí en eso, I think in like towards the summer of high school, kind of like where the pandemic was like rising up, because you take like a program, it's like maybe less than 6 months, it's not that long. You take a program, you take the state exam, you get your license, and then you can work either in a hospital or a nursing home. And during the pandemic, I ended up getting COVID during the classes, so I had to not show up for 2 weeks. And I remember being so devastated because I felt like it was going to push me back. Yeah. Because I set my goal. I was like, I need to finish. I need to get my license by this month. And I was like, no, I'm going to miss it. I'm going to be back. But honestly, I mean, even when I was sick, like I had like my brochure and like the list, like skills that I had to pass. Because at the end, you would like, they would test you on it. I would just practice it. And I would just like keep doing it. It would be like small things like washing hands or how to probably like take care of dentures of a patient, how to do foot care and peri-care. It's like stuff like that. And so when I went, thankfully the teacher was really nice. She let me continue after I missed 2 weeks. And I went back and I ended up just like catching up and like quickly like getting it. And then I finished and then I passed my state license. And that was it. But it wasn't that challenging, I think. It was just because I got sick. And then after that, thankfully I was able to work as a CNA in a nursing home. So
how was that experience?
It was different. It was new to me because I was a server before a CNA. I was a server, like a cashier / server. For 4 years. So like going into a CNA world, I was kind of like, okay, this is kind of what I'm getting into. This is nursing kind of feeling, so I'm liking it. But then you got to see like a lot of neglect in the patients. So there was patients there where they would either be lonely, their family wouldn't visit them, they would miss them, they'd be confused, they'll have dementia, Alzheimer's, and so they'll talk to you and just be like, oh, like, where's my husband, or where am I, and what year is this? Or they'll be like, oh my God, I have to go to work, and they're like getting up and getting ready. And like, I wasn't prepared for that. Like, I never had anyone in my family have dementia or Alzheimer's or take care of anyone old, so it was all new to me. And I tend to be really sensitive, and like it gets to me a lot. So I'm always like very like, oh, like, no, like I talk to them like very comfortably and just make them like kind of remember where they're at, if that makes sense. So
do you feel like it's emotionally draining, like after the day that you're done? How do you...
Yeah, it is. For me especially, there's a lot of people say like don't take it home. You know, keep work at work and then that's it. But like for me, it's kind of hard because it's like you go home, you see your family, you're like all healthy, and you know where you're at. Or thankfully, my family, they're all healthy. And then like knowing that like, oh, they're just gonna go home and be confused or miss their family, or they can't walk anymore, or sometimes talk about like, oh, I used to be able to do this, now I can't. So it makes me a little bit sad hearing that, and like always hearing it at work. Like it's nothing, like it's not like it's gonna change. They're only gonna progress and lose the activity that they can do. So that makes it a little bit more sad in a nursing home specifically.
What kind of things have you used to try to like tackle the next day?
I think for me it's like I think seeing them kind of like progress like slowly. So they call it like transitioning. So you know when they're about to die. And sometimes they'll kind of call out for their mom and their dad. And they'll be like, oh, like I miss my mom, or they'll be crying. And like if they never talk about their mom, or they don't talk about like somebody and they start asking for them, you're kind of like, okay, you're maybe going like about to die sort of thing. And so that kind of makes me sad seeing that. And then when they do that, you have to clean them up. So you kind of make them look neat. You make sure they're clean so that their family members can come and see them. And then, yeah. And the morgue takes care of the rest. But it was like my first time kind of really being close to like dead people, or like having to clean someone dead. Like never had to do that. Even before then, I've never been to a funeral or anything like that. So all of that was like, whoa, like really shocking to me. And I was just like, I didn't really know how to just leave it at work. I had to like I've cried about it. I would go home and I'd cry about it. But then I just, my parents would always be like, it's part of life. And like me being close to God, I'd be like, okay, like this is, it was time for them, So
do you start kind of building up a tolerance for it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you're supposed to. One of my nurses kind of said, well, my school nurse teacher, she said, if you build tolerance to it, you end up getting really cold, and your heart gets cold, and you lose respect. So then you're not a nurse anymore. You don't have the heart for a nurse anymore. Like, you're supposed to stay compassionate. You're supposed to be caring. Obviously, don't really let it get to you and like start crying every day, but just still care for them and always like maintain that respect for them, I think. Because there was one nurses where one of the patients died, and they were just kind of laughing, and they were just kind of ignoring it. They ended up knocking on his door, and then she laughed, and she was like, oh, I'm knocking like if he can like answer, because he was already dead. So I remember being so like, oh my God, like that's so rude. What, like,
that's some really dark humor if she takes it as humor.
No, I was just like, oh my God, like I wouldn't want to be like that.
Yeah.
And so my nurse is like, you see that a lot, and some people, like, I guess they build their tolerance, and then to the point where they don't feel anything anymore, and they don't have that compassion anymore to it. So you're just cold. You numb your feelings, which I don't really think it's like okay to get to that point. And she said, like, if you ever get to that point, like, you have to do self-care, leave the job, change your job, do something, because it's gonna be hard. You're gonna see hard stuff. And you have to really like take care of yourself to not let it get to you, or end up being like numbing your feelings to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Man, and it's like a huge respect out there for nurses, because I mean, even you're about to start it like a whole new chapter to what it's gonna be. And
yeah,
I feel like being a nurse, you have to have a huge heart, because just like you said, people like to talk a lot. So they're like, they'll start remembering, like, I used to do this. So you have to be like listening to them.
Yeah.
You have to care for them, even though whenever they could be annoying, possibly. They could be reluctant to not take their meds, or like not take care even about themselves. They have feces all over them. So it's like it takes a huge amount of heart to do those type of jobs.
Yeah.
And then I feel like during COVID too, it's like we overexhausted our nurses, and now it kind of has like trickled down to where like now it's understaffed just because kind of the experience that we went through. Yeah. So like, what's your take on like what you're about to get into? Excited, scared, nervous?
Everything. I'm still like, it's so funny because I'm always like, I've been working so hard to get to the point that I can't even believe I'm here. Like, I can't even like process that I'm like, I made it. Like, I'm about to be a nurse. I'm about to finish. Like, this December I'm like graduating. So I'm like, don't even know how to feel. I'm like really excited to be done, but I'm nervous to start, and because it's like a lot of responsibility, like so much responsibility having your patient. And like the other day, I mean, I was working and like one of the patients coded, and like if you're that nurse, you're in charge of like running it. You're in charge of like, okay, give him epi, start CPR, start doing this and documenting. And I'm kind of like as a CNA, even though I'm about to graduate, I still feel like I'm like, hold on, I don't know all this yet. Like, you know, I'm still kind of like nervous to be like the main one, because right now I'm like, oh, let me ask the nurse. Let me see what she'll say, even though I'm like an assistant, you know, because I don't have the authority. But like now knowing that I'm about to be to the point where I'm the nurse and I can't go ask anybody, I'm like, okay, that's a little scary. But they always say you learn with a job. So when you start working, they're going to train you good, and you're going to be like you're going to learn it. And like nursing school doesn't teach you everything. So you have to learn like when you're done like graduating and stuff.
What do you think, what are you considering one of the most important things is going to be so that you don't ever get your license revoked?
Oh my goodness. I don't know, just what they always say, like you don't ever like stop learning. Okay. So always like keep up with what's new, always keep up with like the medication that they're changing, and don't like I've heard like don't rely on another nurse, sort of. So it's like, make sure you know what you're doing and the reason why you're giving this medication, or the reason why you're doing this procedure first, instead of kind of like asking like, hey, why are we doing this, hey, like that. Like, you figure it out on your own, so that like you know everything that you're doing and not relying on anybody else, so that you know you're more independent. And
because I've heard situations where if the doctor prescribes something and the nurse is responsible for his or her patient, and it's the wrong dosage or it's the wrong med, the doctor isn't responsible. It's the nurse that gave it.
That's kind of scary, because I think they took that law here in North Carolina now, where you're no longer protected as a nurse. Like now you're held accountable like the same as a doctor. So that's kind of scary. But I think it's just, I mean, it's really up to you. Like, you just have to understand how much power you have and how much responsibility you have. Like, yeah, it could just be one pill, but like you never know what can happen like in like 10 minutes or 5 minutes from the next. So it's really important, just double checking everything, knowing why you're giving it, and not just following orders from a doctor. I think it's just being a nurse is more than just giving medications and like cleaning them. I think it's really like studying your patient, seeing what works for them, and seeing kind of like, does this work for them? Is this might be it? Because the doctors are kind of just listening to what the nurse says. Like the nurse will be like, hey, like I think we should recommend giving this patient this because I think it's not helping what you gave. And the doctor's like, okay, let's try it. If you say it, you know, and if you, I mean, because we're with the patient all the time. The doctors have so many patients rounding that they can't really keep up with everything. So the nurse is like really responsible and like really watching the patient. So they know a lot more, I think, about the patient than the doctor. So it's like, you know your patient. So just double checking everything and just like making sure you're like following it, then I think it'll be good.
Man, you're taking on such a huge responsibility and a huge amount of power that you're gonna have coming soon. Like but at the same time, it's like school's also hard, huh?
Yeah.
What are some of the hardships that you face through your through
Like nursing
schooling?
school?
Yeah.
So it's been it's 4 years in total, right, for nursing school if you're getting your BSN. So it's just been just studying, like just focusing on your books and like what they're teaching you, and like to honestly really be good and like know what you're. It's not just remembering stuff. I think the main thing is like you're not just gonna remember it for the test and like just push it aside and go to the next class. It's like everything builds on the first class, so you can't just forget it. So it's been really hard just prioritizing things. I think I had no social life. I was always either at the library or in my room studying. If I wouldn't really take trips or anything like that. Like I would see my friends going out and having fun in some nursing schools, but I always like wanted to get my stuff done and like get really good grades. So I was like, I can't do that. Like I know I'm gonna have to push that aside. And I had to like, I didn't see my family that much. Like they'd have family cookouts, they'll have birthdays, and I'd be like, I can't come. Like I have a test, or I'm studying, or I have a test next week. It's just me personally, I prioritize school like a lot. So it was like hard kind of like seeing time kind of go away from you, even though it's going to benefit me at the end. I feel like that's what kept me going.
Outside of your family, you said you also had a relationship. Like, how was that dynamic? How do you think what do you think people should consider whenever, I guess, dating someone that's going to go to nursing school?
Well, I think, or anybody like in a healthcare professional, like the schooling is hard. What they're studying is hard. And you have to really understand that you're not going to see them. You're not going to really like spend that much time with them. Or if you do, you know that they're going to have to be studying and you're going to have to help them study. You don't have to, but just really understanding that like what they're doing is like really for them and it's going to benefit a lot of people. So it's really just kind of having respect for the person and like being like, okay, like I know this is what you're doing, like I'll help you, and understand that you're not always going to see each other, and motivate each other. I think is really important. And it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. I feel like there was a lot of arguments because there wasn't like time like really being shared equally, because you didn't have a lot of free time. I didn't have a lot of free time, so it wasn't easy. And I think me personally, I was just kind of like, my head space wasn't in the right place to be in a relationship. I think I was just like, I'm sorry, like I don't think I can handle both of this. Like I think I would love to, I think, but I mean, for me, I knew that this is really what I've been working so hard, and I wouldn't want anything to get in the way or push me back. So I mean, yeah, that was kind of like something that happened. But
Man, yeah, because it's like it's one thing or the other. It's just like weighing your options to where, I mean, you don't necessarily want to leave this, but you're also like, hey, this is important for my family, for me, for my future, and the generations to come. Because just like you said, it's not something that you want to do out of like self. It's a selfless. Act it is, because you're giving yourself up to like also consider all the facts. And people at the end of the day do get affected, but it's just just like what you got to do.
And it's hard. I think it's hard at the end of the day for any professional that like, if one's a healthcare professional, one's not, it's really hard, and you have to like really understand the other person.
Okay.
I think that's what it is at the end of the day.
And you said that you had to do a lot of studying, like that's why you kind of missed out on the relationships, you missed out on the family cookouts. What are some good study habits that you've adopted that you used to not know?
For me is I used to do flashcards, right? I used to like write flashcards and like do that. But with nursing school, you don't have time to be creating flashcards and like cutting them and colorizing them. Like, you don't have time for that. So it's like, for me, what helped me is just like teaching it to somebody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, or just in general, like me pretending to be a teacher. So I would like have a whiteboard and I would like write it down and I would explain it to you or to anybody. Like I would just be like, okay, the topic is this, and this is what this is, and the reason why we do this is this and this and that, and just like speaking it. I think it got stuck in my head. It and like repeating it, and just repetition in general is just really what helped me kind of memorize it and let it stick to my brain, as well as using a lot of colors in my notes. Or there was never really like any technique I really used a lot. It was just a lot of writing it on the board and creating, like, I guess they're called like little bubble maps. So it was like you put the main topic in the middle, and you just kind of let your brain write what it knows about that topic. So I would just kind of write what came to my head. I'm like, okay, I know this. I know these symptoms. Okay, for this medication, this is what this does. Or for this symptom, I'm going to give this medication. And I would just kind of write it. And then I would just kind of go back to my notes and see if I missed anything. Or I would like see, okay, why am I giving this medication? Or why are we using this medication? Then just memorizing, okay, if someone is sneezing, you're going to give this medication. More than just that. It's more like, why are we giving it? You know?
Oh, like so, finding the reason
like
why.
Really digging into it. Because when you're in the test and you're really just kind of like, oh, I'm trying to remember what did I write. It's more like, okay, let me think about the process. Okay, this person is sick. They're showing this symptom. Okay, what's going to cure this symptom? It's kind of like that. Like it's more than just memorizing. It's really understanding what's going on in the body to figure out like either the symptoms or the medication to give the patient.
So it's like breaking it down like into like pieces, like, hey, there's one piece here, one piece here, one piece here. Like how did they all stick together instead of just trying to go back to your memory bank?
Yeah, and that's how school is. Like that's how nursing school is built. Like the first class is kind of like learning the terminology, learning the diseases, and then the symptoms, and then the last semester was okay, you remember these diseases, you remember these symptoms, now you're going to learn the medications. But you're going to learn so many medications that you have to connect the diseases to the medications. And then after that, you also do like so many other classes like psych and peds. And then you learn more diseases on top of that, you know? So it just really builds. And you can't rely on memory like at all. You can't. So
was that one of the reasons you said kind of like teach yourself? Is that kind of one of the reasons that inspired you to start your page, or why did that come up?
That was the whole idea of the page, like the whole creative. To me, it was more for me. I think I created it kind of keeping myself on track and kind of like allowing myself to kind of be proud of what I'm doing, because it's really hard for me I have my goals, right? And then once I achieve it, I'm kind of like, okay, what's next? Okay, I crossed it, And so it was hard for me to really enjoy it, like to really be like, wow, I'm happy for myself. I'm proud of myself. Let me enjoy this moment now and then get to the next thing. And I couldn't do that. I just, quickly was like, okay, I did it. Whatever, what's next? So I think the page really helped me kind of like post a photo and be like, look, you got your CNA license that you're working so hard. And like, I wrote my paragraph and I wrote how hard I worked for it. And I'm like, oh, okay, next. And then I just keep doing it and keep
but that good feeling lived within you.
It lived within me. I think it was more that. So, and then now I think part of building the page is now like kind of inspiring other people, other minorities or people like me, that it's possible. Like Hispanic people only represent 7% of nursing.
All across the board.
Yeah. In the United States. So I'm just kind of like, we need to build that number up, So part of that is also helping inspire other people that maybe aren't interested in nursing, but can see it and be like, oh, maybe healthcare. Maybe, oh, like she has a reason. Like there's not a lot of people that speak Spanish or look like me. So let me, do that or something like that. And it's just like either helping other people out, motivating people, encouraging people. It's just now more like for people to be inspired more. And there's people like DMing me and like asking me for advice or like telling me, oh, like, how did you do this? And it's also sharing notes too. Like I'm not a gatekeeper. So if you need, notes and that helps you, then okay, like this helped for me, or this PDF from this website helped for me. It's like a community, like a nursing community on that page, I think. Yeah. More importantly.
And do you usually mostly get like Hispanic people contacting you? Or is it all across
I think it's all anybody. I think yeah. It's not like I follow a lot of like Hispanic people, and a lot of Hispanic people follow me, but like people really DMing me is like some people who don't have a nursing page, they're just actually like curious, or they're about to start it and they're just kind of like, hey, like I'm really nervous. What are some tips? So that's kind of what I've been doing on the page. Yeah.
And what's one of the most important things that you would say that you kind of want to do for your page in the future?
You asked me that and I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I think the whole reason I built it, I mean, it wasn't for me to be like, okay, I'm gonna become an influencer. I want this to get promo codes and do all this. I mean, that's not even, I don't think that's like, even now I know that's not my goal. I think it's just to continue just posting, be more active on it, and just hopefully just bring awareness to either like the language barrier that's in like healthcare fears or their insurance like policies that are like, you know, difficult, and just inspiring just minorities to really just get out of their comfort zone and like do and make what's possible, because there's nobody in my family that's in the healthcare professional. I'm like the first one going into it, so it's like, okay, let me like help other people who don't have anyone to like look up to, or like don't know where to start. I'm just like, I didn't know either, but this helped me, so here, you know, just kind of like sharing.
But you don't plan on like posting on like, hey, these are some tips of like where you should look, where you should start, like websites, and like keep that information relevant? Or is it more kind of like, hey, these are the experiences you're gonna go through in nursing?
I think a little bit of both. I've done some tips where I got my internship in the summer and I posted a post where it was like, this is what I did and I recommend doing this. So I kind of listed like, oh, make sure to reach out, make sure to network a lot, and build your resume and do all of this. And then I also post like my experiences, and this is what I went to, or this is what I did today at work that I didn't know what is what I would be seeing. You know, it's just kind of both. But I think giving out more tips and making posts like that, I think might be more into the future. I think
into the future. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be continuing it. Like even now that I'm an RN. Oh, not yet, but when I will become an RN,
yeah, excited.
Even like posting it, you know, because I mean, the journey is not linear. So like, who knows what'll change? Who knows if I will change my mind? And like, so I'll continue to be like posting my journey. It's all about just surviving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And coming, you were kind of, tell me a little bit about your family and in Hispanic families, we normally don't have like educated college graduates.
That's true.
So how do you feel, and how does your family feel?
So I'm the youngest of 5.
Okay.
And we're from Oaxaca, Mexico. And my parents didn't even finish elementary school at all. I think they stopped 3rd grade, 5th grade. And obviously they crossed the border. We're here now in the US. And I think the main reason why I'm like trying so hard is really for my parents, to really give back, to really be like, you've made these sacrifices and I'm going to show you it was worth it. You know, like this is the reason why you did it, for a better future, for better like education. And I'm going to prove to you like it was worth it, you know? And so that's kind of like the main reason why I really like have been working really hard. And let me see, like,
how does your family take it on? Like, what is your reaction to like you doing so much studying? Because I know that they'd probably be like, bro, she's not coming to the cookout again.
No, I told them like, be prepared. I told them, I was like, be prepared. Like at first they were kind of just like, my parents were kind of not surprised, but like, I'm very sensitive. Like they know I'm like the sensitive one in the family.
Como se dicen, corazón de pollo.
Yeah. So they were like, are you sure? You know, like, debes estar fuerte. You're going to be seeing this. You're going to be doing that. Like, my dad would be like, you got to be strong. And I'm like, yeah. Like, I got it. Like, you know. And, like, I would cry for every little thing, like, with my family. Like, it didn't even have to be something sad. It's just I'm like, very sentimental. So they were kind of, like, worried that I really would take it too hard. I wouldn't get through it, you know. And I'm just kind of like, part of it is like proving them wrong. I'm like, no, I know what I'm doing this. I know I got it. Like, you know, and they are like my biggest supporters and I love them so much, my whole family. Like they honestly, like, I'm so thankful for them, you know, because like my mom, she'll like, oh, like bring me in snacks when I'm studying. She'll bring me like un café, cut me apples. Like she's like, I know you're so busy and I know you're studying. And so it like really was just so like heartwarming to like see my family motivate me. And, they always say how proud they are of me, and like my sisters would like like when I started like the first time for nursing school, like my first day ever of nursing school, they like got me like a little package of like, oh, good luck, like a Starbucks gift card. They bought me pencils and notebooks. Like my family has been really supportive, and I'm so thankful, and I wouldn't know like what I would do without them, you know. And they're like my main reason of just doing everything. So they've been, yeah, I mean, they make fun of me sometimes, like they'll be like for instance they'll probably just be like, they'll ask me questions, and some questions that I don't know, like I wouldn't know the answer to, and they're like, okay, nurse, you know it. I'm like, don't ask me nothing. I was like, I don't know. Like they're like, oh my god. I'm always like, make sure to eat your veggies, like eat your veggies, because I don't know what I'm learning. You know. But no, I'm just kidding. I was like, no, but it's just like I mean, they're really like really supportive, and I love that.
And you said you're the youngest of like your siblings,
of 5, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Were you born here in the States, or were you born in Mexico?
Yeah, 3 of my older siblings were in Mexico. They were born in Mexico, and me and my other sister were born here. So we like grew up pretty different, and so part of that, it's like, hey, I was born here. I got like my first language is Spanish, but I also know English, and I'm fluent in English. I have a social security number. I have all of this. So I was set up really good now, like being born in the US, where part of it was like, I can't let that go to waste, knowing that, you know, like my other sister, she's, you know, a DACA recipient. So she had to like work even harder than me to get a scholarship, go to college, you know, because some scholarships, you have to be a US citizen to receive that scholarship. So it's like seeing like how hard my sister worked for it, and it's like it only made me be like, okay, I can do this too. Like, let me even work even harder.
And even from the grim moments, I think you could take something away from it, because even like you said, like most of your brothers don't even have those opportunities. Mm-hmm. So it's like you see it play out in real life that sometimes you just don't have the opportunity. So therefore it's like, if I can do it, why don't I?
Yeah. I mean, part of it is like the story that always gets me sad is more like my dad's situation, where he told me like when he was younger, he wanted to be a doctor, and like he was interested in the healthcare field. In Mexico, he actually worked in a clinic and was an assistant to a doctor, and he never really would tell the stories like that. It wasn't until I started getting into it where he was like, oh, mija, like, did you know that I also kind of did that? And my aunt would tell me more. Like, I think he really kept it really close to him, because he ended up having to just like let go of everything and come to the US and like raise his kids and do all that, and never ended up continuing that thing that he loved, you know. And I know he's happy now, but seeing that, I'm just kind of like, okay, then I can, like, then let me do it too. Like, if this is something that you love and I love it, let me kind of like show you. I don't know. It's kind of like intimate to me. And then I think when I was learning how to do needle sticks, like put in needles, mm-hmm. I was learning on sausages. Like in school, they gave us like sausages, like salchichas, and we would just like pick them, like stab them. I remember sending him a photo and him saying like, oh, mija, like, I'm so proud of you, da da da. He was like, I remember learning like doing it on an orange and stuff like that. And I don't know, like things like that, I'm just kind of like, oh, I like it's close to my heart, and it's just like helps me just like continue doing it.
Because he can kind of tell his story through you.
Yeah, I kind of like that, yeah. So I'm just kind of like, I'm doing it for you. Like, I know you didn't get to complete it, but I mean, at least this is, I don't know, something that you can see in your lifetime or something, you know. I don't know. Yeah.
No, and that's great, because I think I've seen a few like some of my primos. I'm like, dude, you have papers, and I'm a DACA recipient, and I'm not gonna say and make myself out of a victim, you know, because I feel like there's always opportunities in whatever way just that obviously there's less.
Yes, correct.
When you're a DACA recipient or don't have the proper paperwork, because the first thing that they ask you, where's your social security card? Or where's your license?
The last 4 numbers. There's always just 4 numbers.
Even to activate your water bill, it's like, what's your last 4 of your social security bill? And don't give me your W-7.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. It's hard.
I feel like I like people like you that are inspiring other people to also do the same thing, because like I said, it was like you live, like your family lives kind of like through you. If they sacrificed a certain amount of things that they didn't get to do in their life, like I feel like that holds value
Yeah.
to us. I feel like as a
Yeah.
Hispanic, to us.
Yeah.
In other families dynamic, it's not that heavy.
Yep. I totally agree. Yep.
But that responsibility actually makes us like in the head, like, okay, like, hey, there's a responsibility to them. And it makes us motivated, more willing to sacrifice. And I think like that's how life is kind of handled. It's like, if you sacrifice, this is what you're gonna get. If you don't, then don't really expect nothing at the end.
It really is like that. It's always like I'm doing this for them, like me, but it's all of us. Is we're doing this together. Like I did not, like when I always say, like when I get my degree, I'm like, this is all of our degrees. Like this is not just mine. This is like for us. You know, if that makes sense. And I see it a lot, like as Hispanics, the difference with like the American culture, because in my nursing class now, a majority of them are white females. There's a lot. There's maybe 5 Latinas even then. Yeah, and the majority is, you know, white Americana. So seeing kind of how they are, I remember they were talking about like, oh, my mom's a nurse. Oh, my dad's a nurse. I know 2 of them. They're like, oh, both of my parents are doctors. So like, you know, and I'm not, you know, like, I'm not bashing them. I mean, it's grateful that they had that experience, but you can see the difference where like I don't have that, you know, like none of my parents were like in the healthcare field. So all of this is new to me. I don't have like extra resources or help where my mom can just tell me like, oh, this is what I learned. Helps me, you know, seeing that from them, you know, and you know, so and also with like being just so grateful for the opportunity and me being here, like me in this class, I appreciate it more, I think, because a lot of them, I see a lot of like complaining, like, oh, we have to do this, we have to read this. Oh my God, like the clinics are like 30 minutes away. And I'm just kind of like, dude, like be grateful. You're here, you're in this opportunity. Not everyone gets an opportunity. It's so hard to get in. Like, you know, be thankful that you're here. And I love what I'm doing, so I don't like complain like, oh my God. I mean, yeah, I have to read so much, but like I know it's like I need to learn this. I need to know this for the future. So it's just seeing the difference too makes me only like value it even more, I think.
And tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the lack of a lot of things for us gives us the ability to be grateful. Because just like you said, it was like if you have a dad that's a doctor, if you have a mother that's a nurse, like you kind of get more power to that, because in your mind it's like, oh, I'm exactly like them and I can be exactly like them, because you're seeing an example. But then for us it's like we don't have an example, so therefore it's that much of we don't get that inspiration as much, because then we don't have an example, and what could we really look forward to? We're always like, well, it's impossible. And so therefore I was telling you, I was like, I'm glad you're doing this, and I hope you stay consistent.
Thank you.
Just because people need some inspiration to like see what they can achieve. It's not easily done, but I feel like, let's say you do get your RN, let's say you get the other level, and then when you do own your clinic, they'll be like, they have followed this long journey that even at the end, like you said, you're like, you'll post so much of it that you'll at least get to enjoy the journey too. But the beautiful thing about it is that your journey doesn't end wherever you open up your clinic. It's like generations to come will also look at it the same way, and it's like, I don't know what, but that brings power and like abundance to the, like, once you start inspiring people to do things, it just brings a lot more, like, I don't know if to call it divine power, God power, to like kind of like what you're also doing. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I can appreciate what you're doing, because people need to see something like this. They need to feel inspired. Like, okay, well, she did it, so can I.
No, and just, I mean, that's a really great to put it. Like, I didn't really see it like that at first, but I don't know. I'll be more consistent and like really try. But
No, but like from your page, I told you, I was like, one day you're gonna be big. Just stay consistent. And
Thank you.
Because truly, I think that 7% number can easily be turned around to a 30% or 35%. But we also have to be kind of an outlet to not gatekeep, or like also a resource for other people to kind of orient themselves like whenever they're in high school. Like we don't even know what we want to do sometimes. And then we'll go through phases of college to where like we'll switch our majors so many times. I didn't go to college myself, but I've seen what of an example of people that don't know necessarily what they want to do. But I feel like if they see it early enough, they'll be able to orient themselves just like you did. I mean, you just had it instilled maybe into you to where like you're like, okay,
I knew it.
Well, this is my 10-year plan. Yeah, this is how I plan on doing it. Just that some other people don't have that same capacity. But I feel like since you have that capacity, it's like it's. Like Spider-Man said, is like with great power comes great responsibility. So you kind of have that responsibility.
Yeah,
now.
That's true. I guess. Yeah, I think part of it. I mean, I exposed myself early on. Like I knew, okay, if this is really what I want, like I want nursing, but am I really am I prepared for it? Am I ready for it? So I did a lot of volunteering. I would volunteer a lot at like hospitals, clinics, and I would. With American Red Cross, like I would help donate blood. I was like, I make sure I'm not scared of needles, make sure I'm not scared of blood. So I like put myself in the environment so that I knew like this is what I wanted. So like even just exposing yourself early on and like letting other people know the opportunities that you can start doing now to get yourself to that point, I think is really important. To like share and stuff like that. Because that's kind of how I started. I just started volunteering. Then I got my CNA. And then I went to college, and the college part for me was actually easy. I think surprisingly, because my high school was 5 years, and then that last 5 year they gave me a full ride to that college, if that made sense, to college.
To get your CNA?
No. So I already had my CNA towards the end of like high school, but that high school, it was an engineering high school, and it was 5 years. That last year is if you continued in a STEM major, we pay for your college. So I applied. Wow. I ended up getting it. And so then I went to my college, and I only had to do 2 years of college because I finished most of my credits that 5th year of high school, if that makes sense. Wow. And it's getting paid. And so when I got in, I just was 1 semester prereqs. And then I had to apply for nursing school right away. And I put all my eggs in one basket. I was like, Jesus, this is the only school I'm applying to. I'm just praying I get in, Like, I did everything. I have all my volunteer hours. I have all of this.
If not, you'd have to wait till next season, right?
Yeah, to apply. And then it'd be more. It's like, then I don't get that college paid for, because then I lose my scholarship because I'm not going to specifically that college that they're paying for, So I was like, okay, I hope, I really get in. And then I applied around this time. I think I submitted it the end of July, and then I knew by October that I got in. And I started January of that year. Man. It went quickly. Just like,
it's been a journey to where like now you're, like you said, you can't even believe it.
I can't even believe I'm here.
That you're closing the line.
Yeah, I'm just like what? I didn't think I'd make it.
I feel like I can be proud of like that there's people like you out here doing stuff like this, and like I said, inspiring people. And I really appreciate your time, Evelyn. We're gonna close it out, but is there something that you would like to tell or give a tip to, let's say I wanted to become a nurse or someone listening to the podcast that wants to kind of like do the similar career, what is like a message that you would tell them that it would be really important to kind of like guide them through the process?
For me, I think my biggest step is more like, I know you're scared right now. I know maybe right now doesn't even seem possible, or you maybe feel like you're over dreaming, overreaching, and like just know that you're not. Know that it's possible. Know that you have to work so hard, and it's not gonna be easy, and there's gonna be sacrifices, and there's gonna be moments where you're really like, honestly, like as cheesy as it sounds, you're really gonna be moments where you're gonna be like, is it really worth it? Like, is this really, really what I want? But just like stick to it. Keep a journal. Keep something that like keeps you motivated, if that makes sense. I mean, this journal right here is kind of, I started it when I got my CNA, and I would write, and I would just continue writing like, okay, today I got my CNA license, this is how I feel, just so to remind myself why I'm working so hard and everything, and just know it's not going to be easy, but you'll get there and it will be worth it and it will be amazing. And I wish you good luck.
Beautiful words, Evelyn. I appreciate your time, and I hope to follow you up on your journey maybe a year from now to see how kind of like RN went.
Let me come back and be like, this is how it is as a nurse.
Yeah. The like real life
the
situation.
Behind scenes.
Yeah, for sure. And guys, if you guys stayed this long, I really appreciate you guys. And I'll have the links below to Evelyn's Instagram. That's all you have, right?
Yeah,
Instagram. And just kind of follow her journey. I started following her journey, and I'm impressed. I'm proud of it, and I'm glad that we have people like this. So if you guys want to help out the channel, comment, like, subscribe, and let us know what you guys think about the episode. And I'll leave you guys at it, at whatever you guys are doing, and we'll see each other on the next one. Evelyn, again, thank you. And guys, we'll be talking later.